start that show. What show is that? It's Cat Calls, my show. I'm Cat Vine, and this is Cat Calls, and it happens every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. ET at twitch.tv/KAT. B as in boy, EIN. Why am I spelling it? Well, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, then you are not watching it on Twitch, and that is weird. You should just join the party live. It happens every Thursday, as I said, and it's really fun. Alex English is here, Myriad of Miriam is here, Action Jackets is here, and of course we need to give a big round of applause to today's guest, who is also here. Everybody give it up for my boy Rinzen. Man, I am really, really excited to have Rinzen on today's program because I met Rinzen before he was Rinzen. Back when he was a fellow music journalist publishing under his real name, Michael Sundias, which hopefully I said correctly. And he used to write for Dancing Astronaut and alongside myself over at Billboard Dance. And he always had impeccable taste. But unbeknownst to me at the time, he was crafting a rich and lively universe of sound and feelings. And in 2017, he invited all of us to that universe with his debut EP, Forbidden City, with none other than Mousetrap. And you know, it's a big nod to get Deadmau5 behind you right out of the gate. But he's never looked back since. He's released music on Desert Hearts, on Yoshi Toshi, and most recently on Lane 8's label, This Never Happened. And after a strange year cooped up in his Venice studio, he's back behind the decks, and he just smashed it at a 5-hour warehouse party in LA, and he's scheduled to play at Electric Zoo this weekend, and I'm very excited to chat with him. This is our first official interview, and that's gonna be fun because he's a very conceptual artist, and I've never actually got to like dig into his brain and get the stories behind a lot of the music that he makes. But before I actually get him on the call, I want to play his latest single for you. It's called Some Good Here, and it features his buds Anaphase, and it definitely will put you in the headspace of understanding this like cinematic world that Rinzen has created. And when we come back, he'll be on the line with us, so stay there and enjoy this.
There must be somebody
I did not lie to you. Rinzen's in the building.
Hello, hello.
Well, he was already in the building. He was in the chat because he's a friendly guy. You know, he's a man of the people. But now he's on the screen.
Hi, everybody.
There are a couple things. We were just watching and listening to the Some Good Here lyric video, and a couple things popped up for me, and I saw Action Jackets thought the same thing in the chat. That was really cool footage that you used in that lyric video. Where all was that filmed? And who filmed it?
Man. I wish I had a cooler story and that I could pretend that like we went out and Renegade just captured all of this footage ourselves during lockdown. But the truth of the matter is I made that song Some Good Here like right in the midst of quarantine. And then we were putting it out earlier this year, still kind of in lockdown, and wanted a music video for it. But it couldn't really like necessarily work in person with directors at the time and couldn't kind of shoot the locations we wanted. So we just made that entirely out of stock footage, and it's almost entirely Los Angeles, but some of the clips are also, I don't know, like in parts of Asia.
Yeah, I thought some of the busy street crossings gave me that like Shibuya vibe. I don't know if that's really where it was.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Well,
probably Japan, yeah.
Listen, there's nothing not cool about stock footage, okay? I've made some really fun video clips with like, I like to find the old footage of like people's old vacations or like, I don't know. There's some good YouTube videos out there that you can, you shouldn't rip people's content, but.
Yeah, this was all paid for licensed stock footage.
That's the appropriate way. You're like an honest, real artist, so you need to be watching that stuff.
Yeah, but it was cool. It's the first music video we've done for any of my songs, and that one just had some lyrics that were also kind of hard to understand. So we're like, we should make it a lyric video and really highlight those, and it got a good response. So definitely going to be doing more music videos.
Did you have a hand in making it, or you worked with a friend or a partner to put that together?
Yeah, I worked with a director friend of mine, Ellie, but the whole direction and vision behind it, I just had this idea of like the city being so empty and quiet, like it was during lockdown. And then contrasting that with like scenes of like really crowded areas, like making us remember kind of the past and what it was like, and also looking forward to that, having that again. And that's like those busy Shibuya crossings that you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, tickled that it took all of 20 seconds for you to start deep diving into your concepts behind everything. That's something that I've always admired about you as an artist and a person. And that's what I'm really excited to chat with you about today. But before I dive into the big conceptual brain that is Rinzen's mind, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Some Good Here. You know, I think that absolutely the feeling of it is something that resonates with me, for that strangeness of quarantine, that like weird still that we all kind of found ourselves in. But I love that you didn't make it a song about isolation or something. It's like some good here. Like, what was the some good happening for you, and the story behind that song?
Sure. So it was right in the first few weeks of like the lockdown, when like the whole world was kind of like shutting in on itself, and there was so much uncertainty, and the whole world just felt so fragile. Like no one knew what was going to happen, and you know, things could have gone either way. And I just remember just kind of feeling the emotional charge of all that, and like wanting to create a song about it. And I had this kind of instrumental idea with some piano, and had these friends in the UK named Anaphase. It's a duo. I was just working with the vocalist Ollie on this one, and told him this concept for like wanting to kind of capture this unique moment in time where everything feels so fragile and still and quiet. But wanting to retain a certain amount of hope that, you know, as grim as things may get right now, or in the next few weeks, in the next few months, like, can we still kind of find the good here in this moment and kind of find the positives in it? And I worked together with him just over the course of a few months, just getting the vocals right and the lyrics right, and kind of crafting the song. It kind of became like a personal anthem for me during quarantine, just having that. Aside from the meaning behind it, I just had felt like I'd created a song that I liked, and that was, you know, I come from a house and techno background, and this was more of like a song with, chords and lyrics and, you know, a song-like structure. And then eventually it was like, all right, well, I do want to put this out at some point, and got in contact with Lane 8, and he's been a big supporter of mine. Just for the past few years, I've been like sending him music for his mixtapes, and he's always included them. And that song, the Kidnapped Skin remix you played earlier, he was a big supporter of that one, and was like playing that in his shows for a long time. And finally I had this song, and I was like, oh, this is perfect for Lane 8. I think he's really going to like it. I sent it over to him, and like, normally you send a demo back and you either get it's okay, it's not really what we're looking for, or this is cool, we'll take it. But he literally wrote out like a whole paragraph just detailing, like, Michael, just telling me everything, why I like the song so much, and totally got the meaning behind it. And just, I don't know, just like more praise than you ever get in any normal demo email. And that just like made my world, that he took the time to do that and kind of understood everything I was going for. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Well deserved, but that's fun. I like this as a redemption story of like, I meditated over what could be positive in the darkest part of quarantine, and then like, lo and behold, this beautiful moment happens and connects with somebody else who I think we all here can say we really admire, right? Like Lane 8 is definitely a G. And it's fun because having known you from before your Rinzen music days, it makes me even more excited to hear like, oh my gosh, Lane 8 like wrote you a whole paragraph. I loved his song, and it feels really exciting to know that you get the respect from these people that I know you respect and I respect.
I appreciate that. And again, most times it's not like that. Like most times you send music to like your idol or some big label, and the respect you get is like, this is cool, or like, I think maybe we'll sign this, you know, or nothing. So
gotta get ready for a lot of nothing. Okay. So first of all, we have to send a special shout out to Harp Digital Media, who also said that your Skin remix is the best remix ever. But she redeemed request a fun fact. And so I'm going
Uh-huh.
to pass that over to you. And I see that we are
Okay.
in your Venice studio where I
We
believe
are.
you hung out for quarantine. So tell us a fun fact about how you made it through quarantine.
Um, a fun fact. I spent a lot of time playing volleyball at the beach. It's not that fun.
I mean, sure, it was fun for you.
I bought myself a new synthesizer, also fun for me. These aren't very fun facts, Helen. I'm apologizing. I did a lot of science fiction reading.
Now that's a fun fact.
Yeah.
I know
Is
that
it?
you're a big
Okay.
sci-fi
That's
fan.
better.
Tell me one of the books that you read over quarantine that you really, really got sucked inside the world of. Give us a rec.
Yeah. So I read a good amount of William Gibson. He
Love
wrote,
William Gibson.
Yeah. So he wrote Neuromancer, of course. That was kind of the book that made him famous. But I read his most recent book that I'm forgetting the name of right now because we're on air.
Of course, and that's always how it works. Are you gonna do a quick Google? Is that what you're doing?
I just Googled it.
Get
I
that
did.
get that quick Google in here.
One of my favorite books ever from him or any author is called Pattern Recognition. That's not the one I just read, but also incredible if you haven't read it. The book I read is The Peripheral. That was the one.
What's that one about? Now, I know William Gibson, if anyone out there doesn't know, is really well known for his kind of gritty, urban, sci-fi future, slightly dystopic,
Exactly.
but like,
Yeah.
which I'm really a big fan of.
Yeah, you nailed it. This one was cool because it like delves into like the future and connecting it with the present, and basically people in the future have found a way to like contact us in the present moment, and every time they do, it kind of splits off into like a parallel universe. So now the universe they're talking to in the past is no longer the current one that they're occupying because they've changed it, and so it creates these like little sub universes that they can then kind of mess with and toy with, and like they start changing like the economy of this now parallel universe, and it's just all this crazy kind of future present communication in these little bubbling universes.
I'm into it.
Typical Gibson.
It feeds well into quarantine because I feel like there was a moment where everyone was wondering if that's what was happening because we were like, what happened to the mortar hornets? Like, wait, now there's like this thing. We were living in strange times. And Harp Digital Media, Helen says that was a very interesting fact. So you did a great job. 250 chat points, well spent.
She caught me off guard. Helen's actually been to the studio. We filmed some like live jams here, like me playing on the synthesizers.
Like during quarantine and all that too, or just
No,
overall time?
Yeah, this is pre-lockdown.
She is a fabulous photographer and videographer. Everybody has to follow Helen if they don't already. But this brings me to kind of the beginning, right? Like this is actually you and I's first time having a proper interview. So I get to ask all the kind of basic questions.
Please.
Where does Rinzen come from? Where did you grow up? Are you LA based originally? Did you grow up on an exoplanet? Are you an alien? What is the situation?
I'm from Los Angeles originally, Los Angeles County. I grew up in this little beach town called Redondo Beach. I've been here for most of my life, other than going to school up in Berkeley and living there for 4 years, where you now reside.
That's true.
And I came back here and now have this studio space in Venice that I work out of, and I've been back in LA for 6 or 7 years and been in the studio for like 5 years.
I love that. So you grew up close to the water. You're a water baby.
I did. I'm a beach baby.
Were you surfing? I think you were skateboarding once upon a time in your life, if not now. What was like? Do you have a sunny California childhood?
Yeah, it was all that, and I was kind of, even though I'm in Los Angeles County, I was like not really ever visiting LA. I was just in this little beach bubble and just, like you said, doing a lot of surfing, bodyboarding, body surfing. Playing a lot of sports, and not honestly, frankly, into music at all. Like not like growing up playing instruments or anything like that. Just having kind of a normal childhood life at the beach, and like not, no conception of what I'd be doing now.
Just like one big episode of what was that Nickelodeon show? Rocket
Power.
Yes, Rocket Power.
Exactly. Yes.
That's cool. Wait, but that's interesting. I like that you didn't kind of grow up with this musical idea. What did you go to Berkeley to study? What was it you originally
Yeah.
embarked on?
I mean, to be frank, I had no idea when I was a senior in high school, like what I was going to do, as most people did.
Yeah,
I
fair.
kind of had, yeah, maybe like this blind, ambiguous idea that I'll go into marketing and like figure that out. But then I got there and was already falling in love with English and literature and writing, and then just decided to go full on into that at Berkeley, majored in English literature,
That's
and basically
awesome.
spent 4 years just reading novels and like, making music on the side, because being an English major is not the most demanding major out there. So it afforded me a lot of time to learn how to DJ and make music. So
Did you grow up interested in literature, or that hit you over the head when you got to college too? What was there, like a special someone who handed you a book and you were like, "Oh shit, this is pretty cool."
yeah, I would say senior year in college, or sorry, senior year in high school, I just started getting really into reading. Like I had never read for leisure until maybe senior year of high school, and started reading like Kurt Vonnegut and fun stuff like that. And
That'll really get you when you're that age too. You're like, "Wait, I appreciate this disaffected, kind of funny, cynical tone." Like, what is
exactly,
it?
yes, you nailed it on the tone. Yeah, and yeah, and just had a teacher in high school who got me into like spoken word poetry and was going to open mic nights and doing that thing. And
Wow.
yeah, it coincided with me discovering weed at the same time. So I just feel like the creative juices in my brain were just flowing, and it opened up this whole kind of, creative side of myself that was previously dormant.
That's so cool. I mean, my gosh, it hasn't stopped, right? Like you just entered this portal and here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because you had an English background, you somehow found your way into the world of dance music journalism. But I
Yes.
imagine before that happened, you must have found your way into the world of dance music. So, where among this like pot smoking spoken word, like I'm gonna study English world,
Yeah.
did you fall into a club?
Yeah. It's also senior year. It all coincided at the same time.
That was a good year.
It was. A friend had like given me, it wasn't a CD because this was right after the era of like burned CDs, I guess, but he like transferred me like 100 songs from his iTunes library, and like a couple of those were like Dead Mouse songs, and like the one I obviously remember the most was actually called I Remember by Dead Mouse and Cascade.
I
And I remember just,
remember
like,
that song.
yeah, so this must have been 2009, I think. Maybe the end of 2009. And just like I had never heard like that kind of electronic music before. Like I'd been listening to like, terrible hard style music and like Scooter and Bass Hunter. Exactly.
Yeah, party. Okay, well, I guess you were in high school, so it wasn't yet like
Yeah.
college party music, but it was that time, 2009.
Dota,
Yeah,
whatever. But
absolutely.
also I was aware of like Justice and Daft Punk, but still, they're kind of more pop almost in that sense at the time. But then heard like this Dead Mouse track, and it was like so much deeper and cooler, and just it was 10 minutes long and had this whole emotional arc to it, and it was just like nothing I'd ever heard before, and just was like, I need more of this, and got really into him. Ended up going to EDC 2010, which for so many people my age seems to be like the seminal first electronic event that they went to. Like
And
seems
that-
like everyone I've met in LA who's like, similar age and working in music was also at EDC 2010 in Los Angeles.
Yeah, back
But
when it
of
was in
course-
LA.
Yeah, it was the last year, but of course none of us knew each other.
Yeah.
And I remember showing up to that, and that really just blew my head like right open. Like there was the entire stadium, and Dead Mouse was playing that night, so it was like Cascade and Swedish House Mafia, and I'd gotten separated from like all my friends, and like could not meet up with them or whatever. Mostly because I like really wanted to go see Dead Mouse, and I didn't want to try and find them and lose my spot. So I was alone in this crowd in the stadium. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. If I'm alone, I'm going to go to the very front of the stage and like, be
Yes.
that guy standing like in the middle of this whole sea of people just at the very front. So I spent like all of like Swedish House Mafia and Cascade sets, like walking up close and like getting to the very front, and hopped over this little VIP thing. And now I was like,
You bad boy.
I was literally the closest person to the stage, and like just was turning around and seeing this full stadium of people, and
Wow.
my first time seeing Dead Mouse too. And this sounds like some EDM fantasy from like a decade ago.
But it's beautiful. Yeah, I can only imagine. And I think that something about being alone too can create a really like I'm going to use the word mystical experience here in a way that hopefully makes sense, you know? It's like you kind of go inside yourself even though you're in this big, loud, crazy environment. So I'm with you here. I'm with you here in this story.
And there was something about those early raves, and maybe it was just a consequence of me literally being a high schooler, whatever, but I felt like...
Also, you're a high schooler.
Yeah. I felt like this feels kind of like dangerous. Like I'm at EDC and like now I'm alone and like, I mean, there's fucking 60,000 people in this stadium. Like this is crazy, but I'm seeing like this incredible artist and like, so yeah, it's everything you're saying. It was mystical and sublime and overwhelming, but also like transformative.
Yeah. Oh, I think everyone has like a show that they went to that just changed their life, or like I don't know, a rave, especially in this world. Like there's always you know, this isn't quite the story you told, but I feel like there's people who like are like, dance music kind of weird, I don't really get it, and then they like go to a rave and they're like, oh, this is the only thing I can listen to now, actually. Like,
yeah, it's that turning point or that like awakening that everyone has. It's
the sudden awakening. Fun fact, Rinzen means sudden awakening in Japanese, right? I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I first found the name too. I was in Barcelona in 2014 and was like at this art museum, and there's this like hanging mattress art piece that was, I guess, like an installation, and then behind it in spray paint was like Rinzen on the wall. And I Googled it, and the art piece came up, and like on the Wikipedia, it was like Rinzen, a moment of sudden awakening in Japanese. Oh. And I was like, oh shit, this is a really cool word.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm gonna make this my like, artist project.
So you were already thinking about being an artist when you saw that?
Yes. So this was, I had just freshly graduated college and had been DJing for a long time. Had been making music, but didn't have a good name, and I always have said that picking a name as an artist is probably like the hardest decision you have to make as an artist.
Yeah.
It's like so much pressure. It's like, what am I going to call myself for the next 10 to 20, 30 years? And you don't want to change your name, so you want to get it right.
Yeah, especially when you're really proud of the stuff you're making, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like back, you know, even 5-10 years ago, people kind of had like different aliases for different styles of music, but now we're living in this world where you can kind of just release it all under the same name. You can, you know, I mean, some people still choose to pick aliases, but
yeah, I think it's always strange when like an artist creates a second alias and then releases all this music under it that's not that different than the first alias. I'm like, was it really worth it? Like it's the difference between like techno and a slightly more housey techno.
Right,
like those are the two aliases. Like, just do it under the same name.
But I feel you on it being important, because sometimes people will just like pick some dumb name and then all of a sudden they get a big hit and they're like, oh shit, now I'm called this dumb name forever.
The thing I also realized is it really doesn't matter what the actual name is. It's like the meaning that we associate with it. So yeah, a lot of people do have really dumb names, but like, if they make really cool music, we don't even think about the dumb name. We think about the cool music that the name represents.
That's true. I'm trying to think of like some dumb name. Oh, Myriad of Miriam says that's what happened to DJ Snake.
Yeah.
I guess in retrospect, DJ Snake is a really weird name, but it's like, yeah, who gives a shit? It's that guy. I know that guy.
Some bad names. I don't know, like. I don't even want to call anyone out.
Right, that's the thing. I think I have also heard that the chain smokers who like don't smoke are always like, that seems, we kind of wish we had come up with a different name, but here we are. Yeah. But you know, stuff about them. So how did you step into this world of music journalism?
Yeah, so I had gotten the rave bug after this EDC 2010 experience. Then I got to college and was like, well, now that's the only thing I want to do. I want to go to more shows and I want to like be part of this culture. And you're meeting all these people at the same time and they're also discovering electronic music. And like, that's what you do on like a weekend. You go to a show and you're going to like the Fox Theater in Oakland and like Greek Theater in Berkeley and EPR, the like weekly San Francisco rave night and whatever, all these things. So I was like immersing myself in all this. And then right at the same time was like this explosion of blogs and like electronic music journalism. And just all of these were popping up, and they were actually the best place at the time to like find new releases. Like this is pre-Spotify, right?
True.
And like the average consumer is not going to Beatport. So it's how do you find out about new releases and how do you find out about new artists? Like it was blogs, and they were just having their peak moment. And I was studying English. I was like, well, I can write about music. Like I know how to write decently. I have good grammar, and I read enough blogs to know that it's really just a pile of adjectives placed around a song. And
It's true. That's the secret, folks.
songs that know enough adjectives, that can be a great
Exactly.
blogger.
I can do this. Let's go.
So I started writing for this like really lowly blog called Electro Jams, and
That's
for
a
a while
good
it
name.
was just-
I dig it. Fuck yeah, Electro Jams.
yeah, it was my way to like get free show passes and save money as a college student. And then eventually like my dream blog at the time was like Dancing Astronaut. Like they were still very new, but just compared to all the other blogs, like they actually had good writers and they were very consistent.
Yeah.
And they seemed just like way more professional than all the other blogs at the time. And I was like, this is where I really want to be. And I think it was like sophomore year of high school, started writing for them. And I just increasingly became a bigger part of their operation over the next like 4 years or whatever. And and then eventually, started doing some freelance stuff for Billboard. And that's how I first, came across your name as well. And it was a long journey of blogging with not a lot of pay, most times no pay, except for some years at the end.
Yeah, we don't love people that don't pay, but we do know that it happens.
And it used to be way more rampant, I feel like,
Yeah.
because it was just this explosion of blogs, and people were just excited to be writing. Like you just wanted to be part of this kind of journalism culture that was exploding at the time.
And the culture itself, right? And especially when you are a college kid, it's like you said, you're excited to get out there. And I mean, when I was in college, I was writing for my student newspaper, and I think I got paid like $25 per thing that I wrote, which is almost nothing, but it's cool. And it's like I got to interview Skrillex one time because I told the editors they needed to let me, which is a very funny thing to say in 2021. But
that's true.
It's like, it's cool, and it's a great way to get yourself into this whole world. And what do you? I mean, I guess now it's been quite a while. I don't believe that you are still doing any like writing on the side.
No.
But how was it for you to be interviewing artists and writing about music while you're also kind of like secretly, not so secretly, building this universe behind you?
Yeah, well, it's funny because the deeper I went into the blogging journalism career, the bigger caliber of artists I started to be able to interview. And it was at also the very beginning of my artist project. So they weren't aware of my music, but I was able to basically talk to my idols and ask them like any question I wanted, because I would just have to fashion an article out of it at the end.
Yeah.
So I'd always sneak in a good amount of questions about just like their production process and like their tips for making it as an artist and like what things they did that really helped them, just mostly out of like personal curiosity.
Yeah.
But also, they had good answers and I could turn that into an article. But it was this kind of crazy moment in time where like I'm talking to Carl Cox and Sasha and Richie Haden and like all these crazy producers I look up to. I can ask them literally any question in the world. And like, I'm a new artist. Like I have a ton of questions.
Yeah.
And
you're like, if someone's a new artist, what do you think they should do?
Oh my God. I ended every interview with that.
Yeah. And then you're like, by the way, no.
No, I never plugged myself.
No,
that's one thing.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a level of like respectful taste that has to happen, right?
Yeah.
You've got to play that tough game.
I felt like I was a sponge. I was just like, I'm talking to these incredibly talented, successful artists. Let me just soak in everything they're saying. And like, what an incredible opportunity that I get to even have this conversation with them.
Yeah. So was there anything that you heard in that sponge era of your life that stuck with you, that you applied to your own project, that you do think was really solid advice, or that maybe you still think about today, or do you have advice for any young artists out there who have this opportunity to hear you talk?
Oh man, there was so much. I mean, the main thing talking to these like icons was that all of them had a vision for their project. Maybe they didn't start out with a vision, but the way they got bigger and got to where they were was by developing a vision and having this very, pure idea in their head of what they wanted to do and what they wanted to accomplish. And it didn't have to be so specific as like, I want to make music that sounds like this or this, but they had this kind of dream that they had built up and they had pursued it with such intensity that it became like this flame in their life and the only thing that they were drawn towards. And just, soaking all of that in, and just, it helped me that when I was starting out, I was like, okay, well, like, what's my vision? If I'm going to do this, what do I want to do? How can I make it different? How can I leave a mark? What can I do that's just more than showing up and DJing somewhere and putting out some songs? Like what would actually make this special and make me excited to wake up every day and like want to do this?
Yeah. And so you stumbled upon what I always think when I think of you as really deep, enriched ideas. Like that became the idea in itself, it sounds like. It was like, wait, let me be really serious about what it is that I'm trying to put together. Talk to me about how you first started to like get that piece of it together. What was like the first story that came to your head that you were like, ooh, I can make that a song. I can make that a mood. I know visual really plays into what you are all about as an artist.
Yeah, I mean, it had mostly arisen just from a love of film and cinema and like loving these huge worlds that they created. Like, the original Blade Runner has always been one of my favorite movies ever. And just, it's this, I actually, tying back to college real quick, I had wrote my like senior thesis on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Which
is the book that Blade Runner is based on or whatever. So it always had this connection to like, novels and films that were interested in world building. So my whole thing when I started was like, how can I integrate some like world building like that? And the first one was Forbidden City, which was the first track you also played here. And I had gone to Japan, taken this trip there, and just been completely enamored with the whole country and just...
Oh, it's a beautiful place. Yeah, it's hard not to be enamored with it, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
They've done a good job of keeping the like history authentically running through the day to day, which I think is maybe why it's so like enchanting, because you're just like, oh my goodness, like I don't know where yesterday ends and today begins, like what's happening.
And especially going to Kyoto, I just really, really fell in love with that city and seeing all the shrines and temples and the whole mystical air to it and the natural beauty and also the seriousness and like the kind of reverence in some of these places. And that was the idea that stuck with me, is how can I capture this sense of like beauty and sublimity, but also like this reverence. And that was the main song, Forbidden City. That's how that kind of came about. And then it's like, all right, well, if this is like a concept, or like, can I build out a couple more songs within this? And that was the first one. And then Exoplanet, another one you referenced, that was the second one, which I'm just also like a space geek. And I just wanted to do kind of an ode to the idea of planets outside of our solar system that may harbor life and, go deep on that. All of this is basically a way for me to meld my interests outside of music with my music.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense a lot. I kind of almost like yearn for artists who take inspiration from things outside of like, I love a good love song, but like we've all heard a million love songs, and I'm not saying we don't need to hear another one, Paul McCartney, shout out, but like I love when you can capture an emotion, you're capturing a narrative and an emotion that touches on these other parts of life and these cool mysteries, right? Like it's nice to set a scene. I don't know. I appreciate that.
Well, I agree. My favorite music is the music that you can kind of step into and it just feels like you're existing in somewhere else, or you can just tell there's like this whole concept behind it, even if it's not something so like literal or whatever, but you can just tell like there's a lot of thought and intention that went into this. And yeah, you get a sense of it when you're listening.
Intention. How do you put yourself in that place? Are you a big mood board person? Or do you like just, I don't know, how do you surround yourself in the place that you're creating so that you can go there to make it?
Yeah. Oh, it's been an ongoing struggle forever, but I think the most important thing for me is one, kind of creating like a sacred creative space, like you're seeing right now, my studio here, like somewhere you can go to where you know you're going to be creating. And so there's already that intention when you show up. Obviously, that's not always possible for everyone, but maybe it's as easy as just a room in your house or even a little corner in your house. It's like your creative corner. But I think a lot of it is, the physical space. And then the other part is I'm really into this concept called deep work, which is by this guy, Cal Newport, who's a professor. And it's all about the idea that like most of the work we do on a day-to-day basis is like shallow work. It's like distracted work. We're usually multitasking, which is actually inefficient if you want to go really deep into any subject. So the idea is to just focus on a single task and not, interrupt yourself to do anything like respond to an email or a text. Because as soon as you do, like you're taken out of that kind of deep focus state. And even when you return, there's still this kind of like lag period where that thing is still in the back of your brain for like 15 minutes. So I do my best to set these kind of boundaries and like, turn off the Wi-Fi. And it's not always possible, of course. And but I find that's when I do my best work, is when I can have these kind of like limitations and just really hone in on my focus. And I think it's the only way to produce good work, because if you're working in a distracted state, like your work will be passable and you can get things done, but it's never going to be the quality that you're really looking for.
Yeah. It seems to me also that if you give yourself that space to really just be in your own head and your own influences, like I feel like even sometimes if you're like, I felt at times where I go through periods where I'm like, okay, I don't want to read anything. I'm just like in a space of creation, or like almost like when I start reading, I get like distracted and I'm like, I feel like I should be doing something else. And I know sometimes that producers will do that too. They'll kind of have periods where they stop listening to new music or other people's music and they just kind of like deep dive. And that's different from what you're saying. But I feel like to give yourself that, like, I'm going to go in the hole now.
No, it's similar for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm sorry. Were you going to keep saying something?
No, just that when you end up like writing so much music and working on music, I think naturally you listen to less music, because like the last thing I want to do after 8 hours in the studio is, go home and listen to more music.
Yeah.
Unless it's something like wildly different, like it's some like, jazz music or classical. But, last thing I want to do is go play some like heavy techno after a full day at the studio.
True. I don't doubt that you sit around and listen to some jazz and classical, though. I feel like you must take influence from classical for sure.
Yeah, I do. But I think it's partially, I have a lot of respect for the musicality, but the other part is just the fact that it's like way quieter and it's much nicer.
Right? Yeah.
After all this, it's like it's subtle. Like you still want to hear some music, you still want to hear something beautiful, but like there's just too many frequencies and like electronic music that your ears need a little rest.
Yes.
So it's partly practical as well.
So what is going on in your studio now? I imagine quarantine must have been a nice moment. Not nice, but like for that sense of being less distracted. You certainly didn't have as much going on. You weren't going as many places as you were before quarantine. Is there more like Some Good here that has yet to be released that you worked on during those months? Are you working on music now?
Yeah, it was interesting. I went through waves of productivity during quarantine where I felt like, wow, I'm really on a good streak and I'm just churning out a lot. And then I feel like I spent a lot of time in the studio not getting as much done as I would have liked to. And I think after a certain period, maybe some of my inspiration dried up. And, it sounds like the dream just to be sitting in your studio for 6 months uninterrupted to be able to make music.
Until it happens. And it's because of a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. And until it's just like it's Groundhog Day and every day is exactly the same. And then I think you start running out of things to write music about. And that's what I started experiencing for a little bit. So I did make a lot, but I guess not as much as I would have liked to. But I don't know, that also just could be a harsh kind of expectation on myself or whatever.
Yeah.
But I will say now that, shows are happening again, I've felt like a lot of fresh inspiration just from performing
Good.
for crowds and like meeting new people again. And it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
What was the
it's
first
definitely been
show that
better.
you had back?
What was it? I think it was, I should know, but I'm pretty sure it was San Francisco at the Midway. They were doing those outdoor shows.
Right. They were able to kind of keep things going a little bit because they had that
Yeah.
outdoor space.
Yeah, that was the first one actually. And yeah, it was one of like their kind of table setups where they created this whole giant outdoor stage and then it spaced everyone out at different tables. And it was
Yeah.
pretty weird, to be honest.
Isn't that a
I
weird?
mean,
That was like a weird. Not that I really got to experience this, but I know that there were restrictions that if you were gonna be open, you had to have like food service, and so it became
Yeah,
this
exactly.
weird dinner
Yeah.
show rave situation started
That's
happening.
exactly what it was. It was a dinner show rave, which I think that could work for like stand-up comedy, but for like
Right?
house and techno music, it was kind of weird.
You're like-
I was playing a sunset set and like half the crowd's eating dinner just like watching me.
It's so weird. You're like, yeah, you guys feeling it out there? Like, put your
Like,
forks
mhm.
against your glasses. Like, are we at a wedding or what?
Yeah. By the end of the night, it was fine. Like people were dancing, but yeah, also everyone in the crowd's like really spaced out from each other. So
Yeah.
I feel like when people are spaced out, they don't dance as much because they're so conscious that everyone can see them.
Yeah.
Versus if you're in a crowd and everyone's dancing, people kind of let their freak flag fly a little bit more because there's some anonymity in the crowd.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just feels, it feels you're closer to each other, so you're connecting more easily. And like we were talking
Yeah.
about, this whole world is built on community. It's just a whole like connection is so key to this rave world that we're in. So I can
Yeah.
imagine must have been
I think
surreal.
that's half the draw for people is obviously they love the music, but also just they love the idea of dancing with these people and meeting people and like connecting with friends or loved ones or making new connections at shows. I know for me now, that's like 90% of my motivation for going out to any show. Like if it's an artist I really, really love and I'm excited about, I'll go for that. But most times I just want to see some friends and like say hi to people. And like, if the music's good too, that's a plus, but yeah.
Yeah. Wait, so talk to me about this 5-hour warehouse set that you played. I
Yes.
think early August, right? That was your first time doing
Exactly.
something like that.
Yes, I had just turned 30 a few days before.
And happy belated birthday! Welcome to the
Thank you.
best decade.
Yeah, and I knew maybe like 6 months prior, I was like, well, I'm gonna turn 30. Like, this is kind of crazy. Like, what could I do that would actually be fun to like celebrate this milestone? And I had already been trying to do an LA show for a little bit, and it got pushed back because of quarantine. But intentionally scheduled this one to be like right around my birthday.
Oh,
and
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, I was like, what would I want to be doing for my 30th birthday? I'd want to DJ in a warehouse for like 5 hours and just have all my friends come and as many people, who want to come as well. And that's basically what we did. We got this giant warehouse in like East LA, brought in our own sound and lights, and had one of my best friends, Evan Casey, open. And then, it was everything that I've been wanting for an LA show. Like, I've done some clubs here and they've been cool. But I've kind of intentionally held off on ever doing like a big headline show just because previously I might have done one at like an okay club and I don't know, it would have been fine. It would have been fun. But having grown up in the scene here, I was like, all the cool shit's happening in the warehouse. Those are the parties I'm going to. Those are the parties I want to play at. Like, if I'm going to do a headline, I should make it a special thing in a warehouse. And if we're going to do that, like, let's make it a 5-hour set and just I'll just play for as long as I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
What went into prepping for that? I saw on your social media that you played a bunch of really dope shit. You started with Radiohead, and you
Yes.
played a Time by Pink Floyd, some really cool
Yes.
edit of that. Like,
Yep.
what a fun, you just were like, it's my birthday, bitches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always collecting new music, obviously, but for this show specifically, I really dug through literally my entire library and catalog of songs and was just like, what is any song that I might want to play during this 5 hours, and reorganized my entire music library, which took multiple days. But because of that, like when the performance came, I was so well organized that at any moment I knew like where to find something, and had these like very specific sections of energy. Like, all right, we're here now. I'm trying to go here now and eventually get here. And yeah, so I felt very prepared, which was nice. And then the other thing was, yeah, there were some certain like emotional throwbacks that I wanted to include. Just because when you're playing a longer set, like sure I could go there and play like really obscure underground music for 5 hours and people would like it, it would be good. But I think it's good to have these little like kind of like, I don't know what to call them, like flags in the sand or something, or little emotional tipping points where just you bring the whole crowd back, and you get them all on board, and you earn their, it's like they trust you, then maybe you play some weird tracks and the trust fades a little bit, and then you hit them with another like emotional one that they really connect with, and their trust is back. And then
Yeah, dude, you're so right about that though. Although I am the weirdo who's like here for the weird thing.
Of course. And trust, I am too, but I'm also the performer in me.
Exactly.
Wants to also be cognizant of the fact that it's a show and people are there for a show.
Yeah.
And they want those emotional moments of connection too. Like we were saying earlier, like you come to the show to connect with people and to connect with the music. And yeah, so there's certain tracks. There's one that I included, which is La Rue, In For The Kill, Scream's remix from like 2009, I think
Banger!
it is.
Your favorite year, 2009, the best year.
Yeah. I think I'm just realizing I had heard, I was listening to a podcast between like Diplo and like, I forget, Tiga, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Diplo was talking about how he brought Scream over to the US for the first time, and it must have been 2009 or 2010.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time Scream was playing out that remix. He had like just created this bootleg, and
God.
it just freaking went off at this party. And I was listening to this like the week of the LA show and being like, wow, I remember that song. That song's incredible.
Yeah.
What if I play this song in the middle of the warehouse? Like, I know it's like technically a dubstep song and 145 BPM. Like I'm playing like 125 BPM. Like, I don't know how I'll do this, but like, I think people would freak out if I did that. And that was like the only moment everyone's talking to me about. They're like, I can't believe you played that and worked that in. Like that was like the best surprise. So that was fun.
That's so good. Well, you know what? I think it makes even more sense knowing that it was kind of like your birthday bash to yourself, because like, yeah, relive all the moments that matter to you. Like play your hits,
that's
like
true.
the hits of your life. You know what I mean?
I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's exactly what I did. And I played Radiohead, Everything in Its Right Place. Pink Floyd, Time.
Song. But it's funny because even you mentioning all these songs and these things, like, they do live in a similar sonic space. Like I don't think it's weird that you did that, but that's what's cool about seeing a good DJ is they draw that connection for you between these songs that maybe you didn't think about, but
that you like as well. Because you're right, there's something that draws people to, I think, like Radiohead and Pink Floyd and techno. Like they're all kind of cerebral and emotional and have like a heaviness to them as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, normally we don't kind of talk about those parallels or bring them together in a set. But odds are the people who are coming to my shows also love Radiohead.
Right?
I love Radiohead.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Most people do, luckily.
That's true.
Luckily for Radiohead. For you. But this weekend, you're going and playing Electric Zoo, correct?
Yes.
That is very exciting. Have you ever played that festival before? Is it a big moment for you? How are you prepping for this? That'll be a little different from a 5-hour warehouse set, I can only imagine. Bit of a different setting.
Yeah, I've not played before. I feel like I've been to most of the big EDM festivals as like a patron, especially when I was in that kind of like blogging era. But EZoo is one that I kind of never made it out to. So I don't have much experience with it, but it'll be my first festival of the year, which I'm excited about. And I get to play on a really cool stage with like, it's basically Deadmau5's stage, but under his techno test pilot alias. Yes. So like Art Batter playing and Township Rebellion and my friend Anna Kim. And yeah, super cool lineup. The crazy thing is, I was just in New York literally last week
Right.
for a couple shows.
You did
I've
the
been home,
shows with Lane 8.
yeah, and now I've been home for like 3 or 4 days, and now I'm going back
You're
tomorrow.
like, should I just
It's
have
crazy.
stayed? Like, I guess I had to water my
about
plants.
it.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have any plants, but
I do. There's some in here, but yeah, my brain's like, I could stay out there, but I gotta get back and work on music, and it's
love
just
that
a flight. Who
dedication.
cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex English, going back to those interesting connections between music, do you ever listen to any IDM? Are you an IDM fan?
Not much. I mean, definitely like old Aphex Twin I can get down to. No, not really. I mean, I guess I've been really enjoying the new Coreless album. Technically, that's some IDM on there. Yeah, most of what I'm listening to, is like classical or classically influenced stuff, like Nils Fromm, probably my number
Ooh.
one. John Hopkins, probably my number two.
Yes. I
Yeah.
heard John Hopkins just announced an album. Did you see that?
Yeah, he did like a album for meditation or like plant medicine or something like that.
Oh, speaking of plants.
Yeah.
I must have brought it up. That's cool. Do you have like a classical playlist you like to listen to on Spotify or Apple Music or something? Like, because I
if
like
I'm
to jam into some
yeah.
classical as well when it's time.
If I'm
chill.
lazy, I'll just use like a Spotify algorithmic playlist. But I really listen to a lot of Chopin, which I feel so
yes.
silly pronouncing it that way, but that's how I've heard
That's
it's
how you
pronounced.
say it.
I know.
You're like, I
Chopin.
swear I'm not some elitist prick. I'm just,
Exactly.
this is how you
Yeah.
say it. It's like saying Barcelona or like Ibiza or something. You're like,
Exactly.
I don't know, it's the way they say it. Don't
Yeah, I'm
shoot
not going
me.
to say Chopin, so
Wait, did you ever see that movie with the Olsen twins where they did kind of like a Parent Trap thing and they switched?
probably.
I don't know. You just brought it up for me in my mind because one of them's very classy and one of them's like a New York, like, doggy, she spits and tree, whatever. And they switched places, and the New York one's like at a piano recital, and she sits down and she goes, "This one's by Chopin," and she just starts banging her fingers on the piano. Anyway, that is very silly. I think it was called It Takes
memory.
Two. Everybody
Yeah.
can look that up. Oh, okay. I'm going to say this name. Epstein Killed Himself, guys, wants to know if you like New York City.
That's the username. That's great.
Yeah.
Was it guys? Epstein killed himself, guys?
Yes,
Plural?
yeah, like, comma, guys, don't
Yeah.
you forget it.
Like, I freaking love New York City. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel so grateful that I get to go there like multiple times a year right now. Like that's, if I could live anywhere else in the US, it would probably be New York City.
Another very
Yeah.
inspiring place with a lot of creatives in it, so that would make sense. And a
Yeah.
lot of really great house and techno clubs and scenes.
Yeah,
And
I'm spoiled. Literally, the first time I got to go play a show out there, were also like my first Rinzen official gigs, like in a club, and it was with Eric Prydz at Output
Fucking
for New Year's
fuck.
Eve, and we did 3, and I was just like, how could you not fall in love with New York City? Like you're there for New Year's Eve, you're playing Output, like you're just walking around. Like this is the first year of my career. Like ever since that, like I've been so smitten with the city. Because how could I not be?
yeah, also, like, what an incredible first show. Like,
Yeah,
fuck
obviously
yeah.
I DJ'd before that.
Right,
but,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. You know what I mean?
But as, like, your big, like, hi, everyone, I'm Rinzen.
yeah, more like everyone's like, who is this guy opening on all 3 nights? Yeah.
All 3 nights, too. That's pretty dope. Did you learn anything from that experience that you took away from you, from being next to the man, the god, the myth, the legend? You were like, lights. People
I
like
did
lights. I
actually-
learned that. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I guess similar to what I was saying about like interviewing my idols. Like Eric Prydz is one of my biggest idols. So like I would do my sets every night. I would hang with Christoph a little bit. He was like the main support artist. And then like Eric Prydz would, do his 3-4 hour set every night. And I would just stand like in the corner of the booth, just like hawk eyes on the mixer, just like watching him mix and like how does he do what he's doing? And like, I'm never going to have this chance again to like watch Eric mix and kind of like analyze a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was definitely doing that for a good bit. And he's so good though that you can watch him and you still don't really have a sense of everything he's doing, or you still can't really spot the movements because it's all so seamless and fluid.
Yeah. That's so cool. And Alex English, by the way, is inviting you skateboarding in New York City. If you want to go
I would love that.
shred some rails.
I'm not that good. I'm like, yeah, I've been skateboarding for a long time, but like, I'm so safety conscious now. I'm like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I sprained my wrist and couldn't make music, I
Sounds
would
like
be
someone
depressed.
who's 30.
I guess.
I want to ask you, I meant to ask you this because I really love when things have a full circle moment. And I did not realize that kind of your big club music awakening was listening to Dead Mouse and this moment where you kind of pushed your way through the crowd to see Dead Mouse at EDC
Yeah.
2010. So what was going through your head when you found out that Mousetrap wanted to sign your first song and that they ended up giving you such a platform?
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, yeah, I had started my career and I was already thinking in my head, like, we were talking about having a whole vision for it. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, like, what label would I want to work with that's kind of capturing everything I want to do and is a platform for new artists and is like big in the States, but also has somewhat of like a global following. And yeah, Mousetrap was the obvious choice. And I was friends with Black Gummy, and Moore was friends with his managers at the time from writing and journalism and just being in the scene in LA. And I gave them this track I had called Renegade, and I was like, hey, I have this song, like, do you think you could pass it along to Mousetrap for me? And they were like super nice about it and just sent it off that day. And literally found out the next day, they're like, so Mousetrap wants to sign this. And I was just like, what? I was like baffled, like, well,
You're like,
one, that
stop
it
fucking
happened,
with me, guys.
and
Like
two,
that.
that it was like, it happened that quickly. Like I thought I wouldn't hear back for like a month or something. And I had no conception of how the label process worked or anything like that. So, I mean, it was the dream beginning to a career. And then I'm also the type of person that's like, all right, well, if Mousetrap's taking that single, then I'm going to freaking write an EP for them. And like, I'm going to meet the label manager and I'm going to become like a core artist. And if you give me like an inch, I'm going to just like run with it, you know, and I'll take any opening I can and just like work my ass to not exploit it, but just to like take advantage of that and build upon that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, as you have, it seems like it's worked out. And I'm so happy to have watched you grow every step of the way. And I wonder, does your time in the journalism world, does it ever like, is it weird to be interviewed by people like even right now? Like, do you ever sit back and you're like, oh man, kid, I know how it feels to be you?
I love it. I still love the whole craft of journalism. I love that there's like a community of people who want to write about the music and do write about it. And, you know, I think that's so important. And yeah, I mean, I freaking love interviews. Like I love interviewing other people. I love being interviewed. I love the whole process of it and getting to like pick an artist's brain.
Yeah.
Like, that's fascinating to me. I always want to know the story behind the artist and who they are and like what they think about and what their mental process is like. And I mean, 99% of the podcasts I'm listening to are artists being interviewed.
Yeah.
You know, mostly music, but also any type of artist. Yeah.
You know, if you ever are bored enough, you're primed to have a podcast yourself. You've lived both sides of the aisle.
Trust me, I almost did during quarantine. I was very close to embarking. But I've also learned that you can't do too many things. Like, I want to do that. There's so many other things I want to do, but the only thing I really need to be doing is like writing music and finishing music and all these other wonderful
finishing music.
things.
That's the important key too.
All of these other things kind of eat into my music making time. So I would like to do one, but
yeah. Well, there's so many years left. I hope and pray. You're only at 30, so
yeah, exactly.
We've got many more chapters in the story of Rinzen to come for sure. And we're about hitting our hour, so I just want to tell you how much I really appreciated your time and you coming by and us getting to finally have this proper interview session with each other.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, Kat. And I mentioned this off the air, but you're so kind with how you interview people and you really do like some really solid research and you know like the whole backstory and you're a pro, so it's a pleasure to be on the other side of the table.
Thank you. I know. I gotcha. I gotcha. Sometimes I feel like it's like Pokemon, and I'm like out here trying to like catch them all. Like, get an interview with
for
everybody.
sure. That's how I felt when I was the interviewer, for sure.
Yeah.
But like I said, again, off air, I mean, you got Deadmau5 and Carl Cox on the same interview. So that's
true.
like catching like a Mewtwo and a Gyarados at the same time or something.
And I love that you said that, because that's how in the future, when this is on YouTube, I can be like,
Uh-huh.
there's the link to it. Click
That's
the
true.
link.
I'm pointing to it right
See
now.
it? It's right there. Speaking of Deadmau5, we're going to let this show roll out, and we're going to play your Monophobia remix. You've done a few remixes for Deadmau5 over the years, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this one. Why was this one that you picked? You picked this.
I picked you to play it. I didn't pick this one a remix.
No. But you were like, oh, that one's cool, which it is.
This one has a special meaning to me, and circles back to the story of how I got into electronic music. But I'd started working with Mousetrap. I'd started working with the kind of management team behind the label as well, and behind Deadmau5. And he was putting out this new single, Monophobia, and they're looking for remixers, and they asked me to do it. And I'd done a couple remixes before this, but maybe only 2 officially. So it was a very big deal to me.
Yeah.
And it was like the most insane experience I've ever had working on a song. Mostly because I only had about it was like 8 days to turn this around or something. So it was like the biggest remix opportunity of my life. And I have like a little bit more than a week to like finish this and turn this in. So was, very nervous, very overwhelmed, but fortunately was able to kind of find that pocket of like deep focus that I was talking about, where like the only thing I did for those 8 days was work on this song. Like I didn't worry about anything else in my life, and just really zoned in and latched onto a good idea. And just in the middle of it, I just had this like conscious realization that like, holy shit, I'm remixing Deadmau5. This is crazy.
Real. Yeah.
This is crazy. And just like freaking out in my studio, and just, but fortunately, not being too overwhelmed that I couldn't, produce work and finish it.
Calm it down.
And
Calm it down.
I consider myself very lucky that I found a good idea in that process pretty early on. And then every day was just able to build upon that. Because like so many times with the remix, you're just searching for the idea, and sometimes I'll make 5, 7 different versions just because I don't know which one is the best idea. And that's crippling in a sense. So very lucky that didn't happen. And I look upon this period of making that remix as like, one of my favorite times in the studio ever, just because it went well. And it was just like the craziest moment to be remixing him. And
seriously.
Yeah.
Anything like were the stems like particularly good? Because he's like the most technical producer ever.
Oh yeah, for sure the stems were amazing. The interesting part was the original had vocals from Rob Swire, and I'm a big Pendulum fan, and obviously Ghost and Stuff is like such a classic song and big part of my electronic music upbringing. But I actually really did not like the vocals on Monophobia, and I feel bad even saying that, publicly.
Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
Mostly because Rob is such a legend, and whatever. They weren't kind of what I was imagining the song as. So I had to like ask them permission. I was like, is it okay if I like don't use the vocal on the remix? Like, yeah, that's fine. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And, and ended up making an instrumental, and that was the biggest thing I remember from the stems, just being emotionally torn of like, oh my god, am I really gonna make this and not use the vocals? Like that's crazy. I can't like.
Is this sacrilege? I have a Rob Swire vocal. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly how I was feeling. But also knowing that I can't in good conscience make the remix with the vocals if I don't fully love them.
Yeah. And it's about you're sharing you're putting your touch and bringing it into your universe. So like, how do you see the song? I mean, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and also just I'm obsessed with like random album title Deadmau5, and other than like I Remember and maybe one other song, there's really no vocals. It's like all instrumental stuff, and my most pure memories of Deadmau5 are just like beautiful instrumental electronic music with incredible melodies and chord progressions, and that's what I was trying to channel on the remix.
Yeah, well, you did a wonderful job, and I can't wait to listen to it and share it with the chat. And thank you so much, Rinzen, for coming by today. It was such a pleasure. And I saw that you're playing San Francisco next weekend.
Yes, are you gonna be there?
I would
in
love
San
to be
Francisco?
there.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
bring
I'll
you to
be
the show.
around.
That
I'll
would
be
be
around.
awesome.
That would be super fun. Yeah, I actually
you
am
got
going to
it.
be having a hectic weekend, but not
Uh-huh.
and too hectic that I can't come say hi.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it'll be Friday, and I'm doing like an open to close set. So
Wow.
yeah, it'll be at audio.
Now
Yeah.
you're fucking you're used to this stuff, huh? You're like, I
Honestly,
can play
4
open to close.
4 hours, 5 hours, that's fine. Carl
It's
Cox is
nothing.
over there doing 10 hours. Dubfire is doing like 16 hours. Martinez
Jesus.
Rose are doing 24 hours. Like, I'm still pretty like down here on the ladder as far as
Oh my
long
god.
sets
I
go.
don't know how people do it, but happy that they
Yeah.
are. The Martinez brothers, there's two of them. It's like, one of you
That
could
makes
take a
sense.
nap.
That's
like,
easier. Yeah, that's easier.
I don't know if that's how they do it, but
I don't think they do, but in theory, that
they're
would
like,
be-
I'm sticking with you, bro. We're both in this together.
exactly.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Have
Thank you,
fun
Kat.
this weekend. Everyone follow Rinzen Music and watch his updates from Electric Zoo.
Thank you, Kat. And thank you again for having me. This was really fun.
Yay, my pleasure. Okay, I'll see you very soon.
All right, bye, Kat.
Bye.